Most of you may remember the fight during the attack on the leaf between Obito and Minato, and how Obito got absolutely smacked up in less than 15. But me and my homie were having a small debate over which character we think reigns supreme between two shinobi we don't get to see develop super well at the times they were introduced. So I'm gonna be taking Minato during his time as Hokage and putting him up against Obito during his time as Toby, and seeing whether Minato has the capabilities to be able to take him down a second time. Before we start, it's important to note that the Rinnegan does not boost any physical attributes such as speed or strength. It's a super common misconception I see in various forums and debates where people think Obito got a passive amp because of Nagato's Rinnegan, which isn't supported anywhere. For Obito to have gotten a passive amp to his physical attributes, that 6 paths chakra had to have been traveling throughout the body. And as we know from a numerous amount of shinobi not born with the dojutsu they have, it just doesn't work that way. On the topic of genjutsu, I originally did plan on talking about Obito's feat with having complete control over Yagura, but the fact that he didn't even try during their fights somewhat shows me that he wasn't confident he could, or just wasn't fast enough to do it. And I think it would be pretty stupid for someone of Minato's stature not to have counters to visual based genjutsu. I want to talk a little bit about Edo Minato, as it was stated by Toby Rama, the Edo Kage minus Hashirama were brought back near full strength. In this case, excluding Edo Regeneration and Minato's KCM form. They'd indeed be weaker, but that their feats in the war would be theoretically possible, if alive. So with that out of the way, we can go ahead and hop into Minato, seeing as though not many people are able to quantify how strong alive Minato is. During his time as a Jonin in the Third Great Ninja War, he was feared as the Yellow Flash of the Leaf, going into combat with just a kunai and being able to defeat numerous amount of shinobi almost single-handedly. One of which being the second fastest ninja alive in the shinobi world, A, and the other being the Jinchuriki of the Eight-Tails, Killer B. Both complete and utterly surpassed by Minato without killing intent. It's important to note that shinobi were given orders to flee on sight if approached by that same Yellow Flash, and this was only Minato as a Jonin. Moving on to his Hokage days during the attack on the leaf, when Obito set loose the Nine Tails on the village, Minato was able to teleport out of Kamui, figure out how it works, and come up with a plan to deal with it after only being shown a couple times is insane. So there's no doubt about it that his analytical abilities are just superb. And all this after teleporting the massive Bijudama launched by Kurama in the middle of the battle. Moving on to the topic of Obito's reputation, it's fair to say that he isn't too well known throughout the shinobi world during that time. In fact, the few people who were aware are either dead, the entire Uchiha clan, or on his side. But keep in mind, this is the same guy who is the leader of the strongest rogue ninja faction in the entire shinobi world, and up to this point feared as the seemingly immortal Madara Uchiha. When Obito set loose the Nine Tails on the village, Minato seemed more concerned about the masked man than Kurama. And when questioning him about his identity, he states, "I'll have to leave the village in Sandame's hands and finish him off right here." You could take that statement as Minato having a huge amount of trust in Hiruzen, but I think in this situation, if Minato deemed the Nine Tails a greater threat than Obito, he'd prioritize and go after him first. Some notable feats include sucking Sasuke into the Kamui dimension, then teleporting himself out of Anoki's particle style, all before it activates and the Kage are even able to realize it, dodging version 1A easily, and is able to fight KCM Naruto, Guy, and Kakashi all at the same time. And even earlier, the implication that he could take on the Edo Akatsuki as well as Sage Mode Kabuto is definitely worth pointing out. We all know that Flying Thunder God is instantaneous, but in Naruto, it's 3 components of Minato's speed that people seem to forget about. Base movement speed, his reaction speed, and FTG. I'm not arguing Minato's base speed isn't high, but in order to move as quickly as he does, it requires a quick reaction speed in combination with FTG. It's hinted at earlier in the series and shown in the war that Minato is able to become a perfect sage during the war pretty quickly. When talking about Sage Minato, a common feat that's brought up is the fact that he was able to react to the truth-seeking orbs before 8 Gates Guy was, and when taken out of context, this does seem pretty fast. In context, Lee actually throws the kunai in order for Minato to use FTG, meaning that Lee was also able to react to the Truth Seeking Orbs, as well as Kakashi and Obito, before even mentioning that Guy intentionally began moving slower so that they could react to the Truth Seeking Orbs in time. Now during this fight, analyzing A and Naruto's speed are two very crucial puzzle pieces in figuring out Minato and Obito's speed and how they compare. And I think it's safe to say that Minato's base movement speed isn't fast enough to contend, seeing as though he used Flying Raijin both times to dodge the Raikage, but Minato was nearly speed blitzed by the first attack A throughout, judging by the scratch on his nose. And it's worth pointing out that A wasn't in his V2 state, as his hair sticks up when active and states at the time Minato outdid his top speed, which leads me to believe he didn't have access to his V2 form when Minato was alive. And to compare, full powered KCM Naruto is relative or faster than version 1A, which that same version of Naruto was outsped later on in the war by Obito. Now, I'm not saying Minato's Flying Raijin and reaction speed aren't able to contend, just that his base body flicker speed isn't enough. During their original fight, Obito was shown to have relative movement and reaction speed to Minato. And even Minato states that their battle would have come down to who's a split second faster. I'm not saying Obito could have won. It's just the fact that he was able to keep up with Minato that's really important. If he was relative then, I don't see that same version of the fight playing out against a 31-year-old Obito who was able to take on KCM1 and Kakashi and Guy all at the same time. One thing that's pointed out a lot is whether Obito still has the seal on his back, but honestly, I don't see that being much of a problem. But wait, couldn't Minato just slash his throat again? Well, again, context is key, and as long as he's aware, him teleporting into the Kamui dimension and removing it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. I mean, this battle nevertheless is really close, but I'd give this to Obito 7.58 times out of 10. But maybe you had a different opinion. Let me know in the comments. I'm always up for discussion. And if you're interested in keeping up to date with me, follow my Twitter, Twitch, join the Discord, and hit that notification bell. And as always, if you have a topic you'd like to see me cover, drop a comment, and I hope you all have a beautiful day. I'm out.